Good evening. I wanted to do a quick video tonight to talk about what are some of the different options for building mobile applications in 2021. And there's actually quite a plethora of different options available. So let's take a quick look at what are some of our different options if you want to build a mobile application using one of the many different frameworks that are available. So this is one that I've come across quite a bit in my career. This is called Cordova, and Cordova is an open source project that originally I think was spun out of another project called PhoneGap. And what's neat about Cordova is if you are a traditional web developer, if you've been building applications using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you can essentially take a web application, package it up, into essentially a native web view, and then distribute that application to Apple's iTunes App Store and Google Play. So if that is kind of like if it's something you're already familiar with and you like to continue using those tools, this may be an option you might be interested in using for doing your mobile development. Another one that's very similar is called Ionic. Ionic is also based off of Cordova, but it uses Angular as the basis for the Ionic applications. So essentially, just think of this as Cordova with Angular. So that is another option. And those are essentially, those first two options are what I refer to as the web view or the basically the kind of like a packaged web view type of application. The next couple options here are going to be cross-platform options. So Flutter is a project that got spun out of Google, and you can use it for not just for building mobile applications, but you can target some other platforms, including something called Fuchsia OS, which is a sort of secret project going on at Google. And the thing that's really interesting about this is that you can build native applications using this, but the programming language you use is the Dart programming language. So Dart shares some similarities with TypeScript and some other web-based types of languages. And so if you're familiar with Dart already, this may be the language you might be interested, or this may be the platform you may be interested in developing for. There's a couple of shortcomings that come with it. You're not going to have full access to all the APIs that are available when you're building your applications. But there's some people that I've talked to that just absolutely love Flutter. So that's one of the options that's a cross-platform option. The next one, this is probably the most popular cross-platform option for developing mobile applications that would run on, let's say, iOS and Android, is React Native. And React Native essentially, this is kind of an example of where you can use the React framework. If you're familiar with the React framework, it's a framework for building web applications, or what's sometimes referred to as SPAs or single-page applications, using JavaScript and their own kind of syntax called JSX. And like I said before, this is very popular. And the main difference here is that instead of constructing components that are made up of HTML elements, you're actually using native components. And so they have like a native text view, they have a native web view, they have a native image that you can use, and you can kind of put all these together like you would with a React application. And so a lot of the same tooling that you might be already familiar with. So a lot of the testing frameworks, like Jest as an example, is the one that's very popular for building tests for React Native applications. It's the same as React. So if you're a React developer, this might be a framework you might be interested in using if you want to build mobile applications. The next one is NativeScript. NativeScript is also similar to React Native in that essentially you're building native applications with native components, but you're kind of binding everything together using JavaScript. And the thing that's interesting about this framework is that NativeScript is actually it's actually supported by the OpenJS Foundation. And the other thing that's interesting is that they support a wide range of different frameworks. So for instance, if you don't want to develop using React, you want to use Angular, or you want to build maybe using Vue.js or Vue in this case, or even Svelte. So there's a lot of different web application frameworks that you may already be familiar with that you can use to build native applications for iOS and Android. So that's another one of the cross-platform options. If you are somebody that's a traditional .NET developer, Xamarin may be the approach that you may be interested in. Now, I believe this has been packaged up into the Visual Studio line of tools, but the idea here is basically that you can create a solution for your mobile application, and then you can keep all your business logic, or the most of your business logic, inside of one project. And you can keep everything basically in C# or another .NET language. The other thing that's nice about this is that you can do like custom UIs for both iOS and Android. You just do those in their own respective projects. And there's also another option that you have where you can use a thing called React Forms. And React Forms essentially is Microsoft's way of doing a kind of like a universal layout or a universal view that would work on both iOS and Android. So there's a bunch of other tooling and stuff coming out pretty soon, along with the .NET Core type of frameworks. But I just want to kind of briefly talk about Xamarin, and that's one of the options you have if you want to build cross-platform Android and iOS applications. Now, if you want to develop natively, of course, on iOS, you can go and you can download Xcode and all the tooling around Xcode. So this is this is what I actually use when I'm building iOS applications, and the main reason why is because I like having full access to all the different APIs that are available to me. With some of those other frameworks I discussed previously, you can extend them to these APIs, but it generally means that you have to write either Objective-C or Swift code in order to be able to do that. Here, you can write the whole application in Swift. Now, obviously, this is not going to be cross-platform, but if you want to specifically target, one of the Apple ecosystems, like for instance, tvOS or something like that, these are the tools that you really want to use to do that. So that is Xcode. Now there's a couple different languages that are supported. So they support there's kind of a legacy application called Objective-C. Objective-C is one of the C family of languages. I think if you were to take C and combine it with Smalltalk, that's basically what the language kind of looks like. But back in 2014, they introduced a brand new language called Swift. And Swift is a very modern, kind of up-to-date language. It has most of the features that you expect to have in a modern programming language. And Apple's actively going out and trying to get schools and colleges and stuff to teach it as a kind of like a main language. And it was built from the bottom up to be the kind of language you could use for doing something that's very simple, but also if you needed to write like operating systems, you can use it for that. So that is Xcode and Swift and Objective-C. For Android, if you want to develop natively for Android, in the past the way you did that was you used Java. A number of years ago, Google released a new IDE. The previous IDE, I believe, was based off of what was it based off of? Much older Java-based IDE. Android Studio is actually based off of the JetBrains family of IDEs. So if you're familiar with IntelliJ as an example, this essentially is the same IDE, just with all the Android tools and stuff built into it. They support two languages right off the bat. Java being kind of like the original language that was used for building Android applications, and the next one is Kotlin. Kotlin is a little bit newer. And like Swift, it has a lot more modern features that you expect to see in a programming language. And so, if you want to develop natively for Android, this is the tool, and these are the languages you want to use to. Now, you can also drop down even a little bit lower. They have something called the NDK, or the Native Development Kit, where if you need to get access to lower level things inside of the Android operating system and you need to be able to use C or C++ as an example, you can use that as well with this tool. So that is Android. Now, maybe you just wanted to develop games, you want to do that in a cross-platform way. Well, one of the tools that's very popular for building games nowadays is called Unity, or Unity 3D. And the nice thing about this tool and development kit is that it allows you to build games for just about any gaming platform, from the Xbox to the Nintendo Switch to your iPhone or iPad. You can build applications, and so they have a tool or an engine where you can kind of build your game inside of this engine with very little, if no, programming. But then if you do need to do programming, they support a bunch of different languages. So they support C#, Lua, a language called Boo, which I've never used before, JavaScript, C++, Rust, and Iron Python. So there's a lot of different options here if you want to extend Unity with your own code. They offer a lot of different options there. So that is Unity. It's a little bit pricey, but this is a very popular tool and framework for building games. The next one I was going to talk about is Monogame, and Monogame is actually kind of similar to Xamarin because it kind of sprung up from the .NET world of development. And so you can use any of the .NET languages for building your games, and then they have a kit basically you can use for building your games on top of. And there's even a flight simulator that I've used that is based off of Monogame. So it's quite powerful what you can do with Monogame. And that is basically what I want to talk about in my video tonight. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, you can give me a thumbs down. But please just give me a thumbs up. And subscribe to this channel so I can do more content like this. It helps the algorithm. It helps push the video on YouTube's engine with their AI and everything. So let's go ahead and subscribe to my channel as well. Thank you and have a good evening.